and a happy Monday to you. Happy holidays wherever you were. Joined by Craig Donnelly, professional handicapper, right here in the studio for Out of the Gate. Track announcer Chris Griffin joining you. And apparently I have a nickname, Craig, because of my selection. I give a price out once in a while, but when you're a public handicapper, they always say you pick a lot of chalk, right?
Well,
sometimes
you know
got to.
I think my feeling is you never approach a race saying I'm going to pick the favorite, I'm going to take a shot. Let the race decide. But in all defense, you know, of course you're going to pick a certain percentage of favorites, but the other day I had two winners that paid over $12, so I felt like, yeah, that's good, good. So it's not, I don't go into a race going, who's the favorite, I'm going to pick them, but sometimes they look unbeatable.
Sometimes they do look tough. We got big full fields all week for live racing. We got some stakes races coming up too. We got a nice card today and tomorrow, big full fields as well, and Craig, you've taken a look at the card, so we brought Craig back here to handicap some of today's races. We're going to talk about race number 6 here first, and this is going to kick off the Philly Big 5. We're going to talk about the Philly Big 5 a little bit later on as well, but you take a look at this 6 furlong race, a starter allowance race in this spot. Who did you like in here? Another, you know, decent field size. There are going to be some scratches out of there, but your top pick, I agree with your top selection there in the 7.
Well, you know what? Flashing Diamond has owned this condition all year, so it looks like, oh, Flashing Diamond's the obvious horse. But you know, when you look at Shiro, who I've just admired over the years, all she does is win.
Right.
She wins too. And the other thing is she goes short, long, doesn't have to be in front. She can sit right off the pace. And what is she? 8 for 16 lifetime. I mean, that's terrific.
Yeah, there are some scratches in there. You know what else I love about Shiro? I love the outside post for her. I just like that she's going to be outside of rivals. She's not going to have to be kind of bottled up and get in a pace battle early on. So I like the 7 as well. In today's 6th race does kick off the Philly Big 5. We'll talk about that plenty here in the next 3 days. Race number 7. Is it a slam dunk? I mean, she comes back in from South Florida. I guess maybe that's the question that you ask. Sweet Wilhelmina, she's going to be she's 2 to 1 in the morning line. I think she'll go a little bit shorter than that. There are some other runners in this spot, and sometimes she can throw in just an okay effort. 2 starts back. You saw that at the mile and 70. She comes back at the mile and 70, and here, does she look too tough? We both like the 1.
You know what? Here's a case where, yeah, does she look tough? Of course. Is she the obvious pick? Yes. But you know what? You have 11 horses to beat, several of them that have ability. But one thing I think you have to add to her effort at Gulfstream, I saw the race. She got in trouble in that race. Yeah. She was kind of in traffic, got a little tight at the top of the stretch, and she still won. She's got a heart the size of Texas, and I think she's the obvious horse to beat, but would I take even money on her list? No.
Rail draw, anything can happen down there. You know, she's going to have to break well going into that turn with a big full field as well. Let's take our first break, talk about the Parx Racing mobile app, and we're going to have more selections for you here from today's card.
Now available, an enhanced Parx Racing mobile app. The improved Parx mobile app will feature biometric login through fingerprint or face ID. View wagering information before building your wager. Customizable viewing options, hands betting and transaction history, helpful tips, and much more. The enhanced Parx mobile app, now available.
Back here on Out of the Gate, track announcer Chris Griffin, joined by the Hall of Famer Craig Donnelly in here. But let's get into race number 8, a name that everyone's very familiar with. How good has this horse been for Lou Linder Jr., that entire barn, the season he's had? You go right back to sheer flattery. There is a layoff. He's been off since October. How do you feel about the number 5 coming into this spot here at a short price?
Once again, how do you knock sheer flattery? 7 for 10 this year. He's a horse that they purchased and brought in from Canada. All he does is win, and to show his class, he only got beat a length and a half in the Greenwood Cup, for God's sake. So he seems to have an edge over these horses. Linder horses are firing. I don't think the couple months off is a negative. I mean, he's 13 for 52 lifetime, nearing $500,000. It's another case where when I see a horse like this, I start searching for who do I put underneath him, the exacta.
Yep. Hey, we don't like chalk. We picked all 3 chalk on top there. Race 6, 7, 8. They look good. They look good. Wearing the shirt for a reason. What are you going to do? Here, race number 9, though, we get into a race where you do go with the price, and we're going to go 6 furlongs. One thing to note, though, there are some scratches. Kendrick Carmouche is going to end up on the outside runner, Mr. Pete, the number 16, who does draw in. Maybe something you get to take a look at in here, but the number 2 is Lawan. Second beaten 3.5 by Dexter. Dexter Haddock was aboard that day. You're going back to Lewan in here. What do you think about the rider change here in the spot?
You know what? Actually, who's riding him? I've got.
So Dexter's going to ride.
Well, Dexter's been riding. That's the good part. Dexter's a good rider. Won a stake in New York class about a week ago. And he has been on the horse. What I liked about him, he came back off the layoff, ran out of his shoes, came back when a race where there was a ton of speed, and the closer won the race, and he kept running, put away the other speed, finished second. And the thing is, Sevier's going to be a big favorite again, but I thought, you know what, he was 2-5 last time, had a hard time winning. He had to work for it, and of course he's formidable, but he got beaten this previous sprint, so maybe he's even money 4-5, 3-5 again. Lewan's 5 or 6-1. I think Lewan's going to make a good showing.
That's a good look at today's card. We've got those 4 races that we've handicapped here, and then we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of our stakes racing action coming up. So we've got racing action on Tuesday and Wednesday. We added 5 stakes races over those next 2 days. So we added 5 stakes races, and here's the first set that we're going to talk about in here. Here's the first set we're going to talk about in here. So Tuesday, December 28th, which will be tomorrow, we got those 3 stakes races, the Blitzen, the Kris Kringle, and the Mrs. Claus. We've taken a look at those sequences, and again, this looks like some really nice competitive racing. We've got some big full fields. There are some price plays possibly to get involved with. There are some favorites definitely that are going to be in some of those positions, but we're going to take a look first here at the Mrs. Claus, and the Mrs. Claus is going to be that first race that we do take a look at. That's going to be a 7-furlong sprint, and I know your top selection is going to be Don't Call Me Mary in there, right? As you take a look at her, the number 4 horse this day, she beats Chubwagon.
How about the only horse that ever beat Chubwagon? Chubwagon, I believe, is 10-11, and this is the only horse that ever beat her. And she runs her down and beat her fair and square, even though it was over a wet track. Don't Call Me Mary is an outstanding Pennsylvania bred. It just shows, so's Chubwagon. It just shows you how many good Pennsylvania breds are out there.
There's Don't Call Me Mary. Yeah, I think not really surprisingly that she was able to run her down, but I mean, just at that distance, the way that she contended with her, the way she was able to compete, you know, it just looked like the way that she was finishing up. She just finished stronger than Chubwagon in that spot. It was Todd Pletcher who came in, and she was kind of ignored because of just you know, the mystique that's kind of built around Chubwagon because she's been so good all year.
And undefeated going into the race. But you know what? You have a bunch of shippers in this race from Kentucky and other tough circuits that make it a very competitive, excellent race. I truly believe these are some of the best programs of the year in the next few days.
Yeah, we got a nice preview that we're going to show you a little bit later on, maybe into the later part of the card here today. We shot a nice video, so we'll put that video up a little bit later on today. Let's keep talking about these stakes races right now, though. We get into what will end up being race number 8 in here. I'm going to take a look at my phone here because you can only print out so much paper. Well, we go into a 2-turn race here in the Kris Kringle. Looking at the Kris Kringle, you know, another competitive field in here. You get a horse like I Am Redeemed is going to be in this spot. You get a couple other runners, but who do you like in the Kris Kringle going the 2 turns? And this is a real nice horse race.
We've seen this plenty of times. Jamie Ness gets a horse and they turn into Secretariat. Davidic Line came in from Kentucky. The 2 races he ran here were just unbelievable. He not only trounced his opposition, he was being geared down late, as we say. I mean, he just looks, does he have tough competition? I Am Redeemed's terrific. Rock on Luke's terrific. Why Paul Y's great. But Davidic Line just looked formidable. Too tough to pick against him. When I try to beat Jamie Ness, sometimes I end up regretting it later.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we can catch a little bit of a price in there, but there are some competitive runners. I mean, this is not a slam dunk. 7-2 on the morning line for Davidic Line. You know, Ruben Silvera, your leading rider, who's going to be the leading rider for the season, will be back aboard. But you get runners like Why Paul Y. You get a couple other runners in there. That could be a really competitive race as you take a look at that. And let's take a look at the third stakes race there, $100,000 stakes race on the day, and that's going to end up being, you know, another nice race in there. You take a look at the Blitzen, it's a sprint. Are we going to get a price play just a touch? I mean, there's a horse that you like in there that's been handling turf. He's been on the turf quite a bit, so let's talk about Battle Station.
All right, but Battle Station's been handling turf, but he's also run well on the main track in Maryland. And the other thing I love about him, I saw when he ran here, he just surged at the end, even though he looked like he'd fade and was beat. But you know what? You can literally, right now you got 16 horses in there, 14 starters there. You can make a case for about 10 of them. This might be the most competitive difficult to handicap race of the entire 3 days this week. So, I mean, Repo Rocks, For the Love of Bourbon, Final Shot, Dreams Untold. We could go on and on. This is a really tough competitive field.
Yeah, we're going to get into some of our Wednesday races as well. So let's talk about what's going to happen on Wednesday. The Philly Big Five. That's a big story because we've got the bet offer on Monday and Tuesday, but we have a mandatory distribution on Wednesday. This is the carryover going into today. $323,542.55. So a nice carryover jackpot coming into today. That's for today's racing. Monday and Tuesday, this wager will be offered. You still got to be the single ticket winner to take down the entire jackpot on Monday and Tuesday. And then when you start getting into Wednesday, that's the big day. Mandatory, some people like to say payout, but I think the correct way actually is mandatory distribution. So a mandatory distribution in the Philly Big Five on Wednesday, December 29th. If the carryover jackpot continues on Monday and Tuesday, you're going to get involved in the Philly Big Five, aren't you?
Absolutely. And we're going to talk in well over 500,000, who knows how much, maybe heading up towards 1 million. How can you not? Even if you share it with 30 other people, what's so bad about 20, 30,000? So I would say, yeah, it's worth spending, you know, whatever is your bankroll can handle, $10, $20, $50. You've got to get involved when there's a mandatory payout.
Yeah, with a big mandatory like that, that's going to be on Wednesday, December 29th. And again, we got some great stakes racing action coming up for you on those days. And let's talk about some of those stakes there. We get into the Futurity, the Parx Futurity 2-year-olds. Going to highlight those 2-year-olds on Wednesday of that live racing as we conclude the season. And we're going to talk about the juvenile in just a second because we have a big story that we're kind of just getting word on. But let's talk about the Futurity first. And buy the best, you go to this runner that's going to ship in that outside horse, the number 12, for Cattle Lynch. That's going to be your top pick.
And it just looks like this filly's getting better and better, developing rapidly. And you know what? I don't normally always want to pick outside posts. It seems like I have a lot. But one of the pluses is, let's face it, you got young horses. They're going to be banging and crowding each other. She's got clear sailing outside, enough speed, I believe, to get, you know, stalking trip outside. And just the fact she's getting better and better and better. Cal Lynch, certainly. Rodriguez, the leading rider at Delaware. A lot of pluses. Is she a standout? There's a lot of nice horses. Nice shippers. Todd Pletcher's got Misinterpret. Captain's Daughter from New York has finished second 2 straight times as a long shot. She'll be flying late. It's an excellent field. We also have local horse Alice Harper. Real nice filly for Lupe Preciado.
Yeah, that's a nice horse race in there. You take a look at that one, $100,000 on the line. It's nice to end the year with $100,000 stakes races as we get into some of that action. Now, this is what I'm seeing on Twitter, and I just saw this from Dan Illman with DRF and talking to some of the connections and the trainers that Whitty is going to scratch out of the juvenile tomorrow. Now, it's not confirmed. We're reading on social media, but Dan Illman usually is right on the ball as far as talking to some of the connections. So I'm not going to confirm that right now, but that is what I'm seeing. So Whitty is one to take a look at. That was going to be your top pick. So we're not going to talk about that horse right now, though, because we want to just kind of confirm and make sure everything's okay there. But outside of Whitty, I mean, that's a nice 2-year-old race in there. You take a look at this one again, another 7 furlongs. This is a nice race. Even if, you know, if Whitty is not unable to go in that spot, you still have a lot of competitive runners in there.
And believe me, there's a horse in there, number 2, Dance Code. 2 races back, he bore out all the way through the stretch and still managed to beat a horse named Practical Joe, or actually his name is Practical Coach. But he, despite bearing out last time out, the jock had trouble with him on the backside, ended up taking him literally about 8 or 10 wide on the turn, and he still closed. Now, his problem would be, I wish he had an outside post, but he's number 2 in the Parx Juvenile. But if he can break, this horse has a load of ability. He's got to learn to start running straight and not make right-hand turns. If he can do that, he'll be difficult to beat. Uncle Buddy finished second to Whitty last time. He's a terrific Penn National horse. Smartened Up just won by a country mile going long here for Freddie Velasquez. Practical Coach for Butchery. This is a very wide open, excellent field.
Yeah, it's an exciting 3 days of racing coming up here at Parx. Craig Donnelly, track announcer Chris Griffin here in the Parx Racing Studio. Don't forget about the Philly Big Five. Don't forget about all the great racing action we got. First post times of 12:10. Hey, and we've got that video ready to roll now. We got that stakes preview here from all the great racing action we've got coming up right here at Parx. So we're going to close with that to close the show. Thanks again to my man, the Hall of Famer Craig Donnelly. We'll have him on throughout 2022. Hopefully you'll join me here in the studio. We'll do some handicapping and give out some winners. Happy holidays to you and good luck all week. Let's see the stakes preview right here at Parx from out of the gate. Good luck.
3 stakes races at Parx on Tuesday. The Blitzen, the Kris Kringle, and the Mrs. Claus. Stakes races, each one $100,000. For the Love of Bourbon, trained by Michael Pino. Won the Banjo Picker Sprint here in August. Jockey Michael Sanchez has the ride. Battle Station has had a lot of success on the turf. Will Battle Station be able to win on the main track in the Blitzen? I Am Redeemed is a Pennsylvania bred with a bright future. I Am Redeemed looks to continue his success here at Parx in the Kris Kringle. The Jamie Ness-trained Davidic Line has been a runaway winner in his last 2 starts. He looks to continue his role in this stakes race. Rock On Luke won easily in the Bolesi Appreciation Mile. Will he get a lonely lead at the mile and 70 yards distance? Dr. B, running in the Mrs. Claus, looks to bounce back with a big performance at this 7 furlong distance. Don't Call Me Mary will be one of the favorites in the Mrs. Claus. Todd Pletcher trains the Pennsylvania bred filly by El Padrino.